Woo! What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Spin from the Reel, a Schmoedown reaction show. My name is Chris Anthony Lopez. Oh gosh, usually when we do these shows, as you can see, Matt Thomas isn't here with me. Had to step out for the day, so I thought might as well still do some type of show, still talk about some Schmoedown, but I feel like I can't talk about the Schmoedown properly. I can't just jump into all this Schmoedown talk. We're going to talk about the draft list that came out on Monday. We're going to talk about, what was it Monday? I forget. At this point, this day's been a mess. We're going to talk about the announcements that came out on Tuesday from Kristian Harloff about the future of season 8, but I can't just do that, as I mentioned. I wanted to briefly talk about what's going on in the States for all my North American peeps, for all my United States of American people. That was so weird. For all my folks, right? All my fellow Americans, you've seen what's going on. Like I don't have to repeat what's been going on in the news. All I know is that today is a day that will go down in history. Today will go down as an embarrassing day in U.S. history, and I firmly believe that all this crazy stuff that's been going on, it says a lot about the state of our country. This is like the amalgamation, the tipping point. This is the summation of the last few years, and I'm not going to get too deep into it because honestly, there are so many people that are so much smarter than I am and that can word it so much better than I can. But the one thing I can say is we all need to look at what's going on and listen. Not hear. We should because we hear a lot of things. It's what we listen to. We have to listen to what's being said, listen to what's going on, and look at what's going on too. Not only for the better of ourselves, but for the better of our country and everyone and everybody else that lives with us, lives in this country, and for generation after generation, because we're looking bad right now. Like we're the laughing stock of the world right now. So we really need to cool it. And certain steps are being taken to change that, hopefully, but we'll see. We'll see. I felt like I couldn't just talk Schmoedown today without at least mentioning that. So, like I said, if you haven't seen what's going on, please go out and do so. Go out and educate yourself and listen to people who are way smarter than I am, that know how to properly word these things, and that will just listen to what's going on and look at what's happening too. But it's Spin from the Reel. I'm by my lonesome today. We're going to talk about some Schmoedown. And I feel like the first thing we have to chat about is the draft list, because we have our first official confirmation of the draft list, which came out of nowhere, right? Kristian Harloff said, yo, we're going to get a draft list and it's going to come out and it's going to be the first wave, 140 people. What's going on, Taylor, in the chat? It's good to see you. Good to see you too, homie. 1000%. It's been a weird day. Really weird day. But show what's going on, I guess, right? So Kristian gave us a little bit of a draft list, and I wanted to just break this down a little bit because there are a bunch of names on here that we have seen before, some surprising names to me, some new faces, a lot of new faces, a lot of new names. What's up, ASG in the chat? What's going on, homie? Hope you're good. So I want to break this down because it's a fun list, honestly. And with StreamYard, shout out to StreamYard, making this the weirdest, putting this up in the weirdest way possible. So, I mean, let's look at the first batch of names that Kristian announced on social media. Bang, as they pop up on the screen. Look at that. That's one huge list. That's 43 people. 43 people. And it's a lot of names we've already seen before. A lot of names that we were expecting. You see the Oyamas, the Merles, the Rokas, the Irwins, Meyer, Bibiani. Mind you, this is everyone who hasn't been claimed already. So really, it's everyone with the exception of Adam Collins, Mike Kalinowski, and Chance Ellison. Everybody else is on this draft list. So I know the initial shock to me was, yo, Paul Oyama wasn't picked up? I'm like, wait, no, this is everyone. It's the whole league. The whole league's going to be on these names. But just to go down the list, we saw, we're seeing familiar names: Eric Zipper, Mark Riley, Bateman, and Draco, Seibold, Seeing Demi come back was dope. And again, I'm sorry, Demi, I don't want to mispronounce your name, but seeing Demi come back, that's really dope. Elliot Dewberry, one of the best heels of last year. Cody Hall, that's a good one. Adam Gertler's in this thing too. Like there are some newer names that we hadn't seen in a while in regards to Schmoedown. So whether it is Hall or JTE, we only saw him once last season. RB3, Cameron Rice. We're seeing some schmoes and some SEN favorites in this thing. Simon Thompson, I'm not familiar with Simon Thompson, at least not off the top of my head. Seeing Thomas Ian Nichols in this thing is pretty dope. And the V McAlargy, I'm telling you, this is just like the schmoes know SEN favorites. Doug Benson, who didn't even compete last year, was drafted, didn't compete. We'll see how that goes. We got peeps in the chat. Taylor, yes, it's really invading my space. Like, it's all in the way. ASG, what's going on Twitch? Roca is 4, that's all I need to know. Right? And Taylor, I hear mentioning that as well. Apparently, Kristian made it sound like it wasn't a coincidence. Come on, man, we're better than that. But it's crazy to see all these names on here because, I mean, this is just like the first bunch. And it gets crazier as we go. Because the second little list, bang, a little bit bigger than that. Again, we see a lot of familiar names: Barbarian, James White, Janine the Machine, Video Drew, Haley Fauch, Perry Nemiroff. Seeing Bonnie in this is cool. Seeing her possibly getting drafted again. Although we'll see how her draft stock is come, the new season because of what's been going on. Rebecca McKendry, familiar name. I don't necessarily remember her play. Sabina, I know didn't have a great season. Caitlin Corrigan. Moving on in our geekdom, we're seeing Emily Rose. We're seeing Kim. We're seeing Taylor Robinson coming back after being away for a little bit. Mara Knopic, Saul, John Humphrey, a lot of familiar names. Like we're not strangers to these people. Star Wars, same deal. And I know there's some people missing. Kristian, make sure to emphasize that there were some people missing. Andrew Guy's not on this list for whatever reason. So we'll see what that happens with Andrew. I know my man's currently pretty occupied with some groups that are some groups that are not officially with the Schmoedown. Taylor, yes, Video Drew is one word or as 2 words in Kristian's words. Nah, it is what it is. He did essentially show us the prototype list, which is weird. But Video Drew, she might be on someone's horror show in a couple of days. I wonder how that's going to pan out. But we got the first batch was essentially a bunch of names that are no stranger to Schmoedown fans. Whether we haven't seen them since season 1 or season 2, or we haven't seen them in the last few seasons, or if they're champions right now. We're seeing some familiar faces, some familiar names. I'm not surprised by that at all. Which is not a surprise. Taylor in the chat, yeah, she might be on. Well, look at that. Nightbot, what's going on? Really scared? Tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be a good show. Connor, Taylor, and a special guest. Maybe someone who loves videos. Maybe. Just put that out there. I'll give y'all a better plug when the show ends. So the first batch of names was a bunch of familiar faces. But the second batch is where things get interesting, in my opinion. Because we get to see a lot of the newer faces and some even newer faces. Like we got to see some previous announcements, whether you're Kofi Outlaw at the top or you're Sean Chandler, Brother Lomas. Got a lot of hype behind Brother Lomas. Rick Radis, whoever that is. Kidding. Shout out to a friend of the show. I guess we had the Rage on the show. Friend of the show, I guess. John Flickinger, Josh Horowitz. We're seeing a lot of the names that were mentioned prior. A lot of the names that Kristian gave us about a week ago at this point. And as we go further down the list, also another fun confirmation you see at 102, Sunny, and on this one, 126, Cat. They were both separated. So there were a lot of rumors running wild, brother, that they were going to be drafted as a duo. No, they're not. They're separate. And this confirms that. No one's getting drafted as a duo. We're seeing, again, a lot of newer names. Jessica Villarreal. We're seeing Christina Vasolo. I hope I pronounced her name right. Vasalo, there you go. Jessica Sloth. Peggy Gubbins. Lots of newer names, right? We haven't seen these names before. These aren't the names that Kristian necessarily gave us beforehand, like an Abby Corrin, like an Iman Frost, like Kat, Riley Silverman. Shout out to 129 Tamara Lynn Chambers. For all my fellow fans of Channel Awesome, you are no stranger to Tamara. Tamara is one of the better parts of the channel. She is so entertaining when she's in the Nostalgia Critic stuff, but on her own stuff as well. Tamara was a shock to me. It got the most audible reaction out of me when I saw all of those names. Like, oh wow, Tamara Lynn Chambers? That's dope. Plus, we love our Chicago folks over here on Spin from the Rio. But running through this list one more time, like it gets pretty interesting, especially with all these new Star Wars folks. Look at that. The Star Wars division doubles. That's Inner Geekdom. The Star Wars division more than doubles. And these aren't even all the names. We saw that Kristian forgot some people. And I believe Claudia was excluded off the list. Jeff Snyder was excluded off the list. He's totally getting drafted or picked up. Let's be real. But the Star Wars division doubles. It doubled in the course of a day. Like there's 147 names on here plus because of the Snyders and the other names that Kristian had left off. Excuse me, but there are so many. There are so many different things moving around in the Schmoedown, and the changes that are going to happen throughout the course of the season will definitely pan out and become one of the, if not the most intriguing season to watch. And I know he dropped a bunch of knowledge yesterday on Backstage that I'll get into in a second. But again, this is awfully interesting. And a lot of these incoming rookies don't have divisions assigned to them. I know some of them may be singles or teams. Like we had 92 Rick Radis pop up on the show. He said he'd be singles. But is he going to do teams too? Is he going to do Inner Geekdom? We don't know. But a lot of these other names are up in the air. But I love the separation of Star Wars because the Star Wars names also are going to just double. And Matt's on the show multiple times, and I cannot agree with him more. That Star Wars have a significantly bigger presence this year. And Kristian confirmed that on Backstage, but we'll get to that in a second. Taylor in the chat, you think there's even a morsel of validity to Snyder going to the exchange, or is this all a work? Well, I mean, I didn't plan on talking about rumors today without my co-host Matt, but I mean, I could get my 2 cents on it. So just to talk about this for a second, Kristian Harloff posted these fun screenshots, right? Talking about his conversations with certain competitors and managers. And a couple days ago, the hype was around the stars, the defunct rock stars. And I believe it was Repeat the Question that broke this news, if I'm not mistaken. Repeat the Question, David Sackrider said that the exchange was trying to get a feel for Jeff Snyder. Is there a morsel of validity? I would have said no. I would have straight up said no, there's no validity to this. Like, that's a lie. And that's immediately what I said when Matt Thomas told me, hey, check this out. I said, that's BS. And I was more vulgar with my language. I'm like, that's BS. That's garbage. I don't buy that at all. But then Kristian had to Kristian had to do his pro wrestling magic and upload a screenshot to the Facebook page where it said, hey, Snyder, is there any truth to you talking to the exchange? Snyder said no comments. And then I was like, damn. Like he really said no comment. But then Kristian asked for permission to put the picture in the chat. And Snyder was like, yeah, totally. Which kind of sucked me out of it, to break kayfabe for a second. It kind of sucked me out of it as a wrestling fan. I don't like, that's what made me not buy it anymore. They had me for a second. They had me for a split second. But no, I don't buy that. I really, really don't. It'd be weird. It would be like turn of the year, turn of the season. It'd be like when Shannon broke up the Wildberries to start the season, like before we started playing matches. Because if Snyder goes to the exchange, that means Draco would have to come with him in order to keep the belts together. Taylor in the chat saying that would be such a swerve. I can't imagine they would be reveal anything like this or like that early. Right. Yeah. Nothing's confirmed. The only thing we know, the only thing that is set in stone is that Adam Collins, Mike Kalinowski, and Chance Ellison are with Corruption. That's the only thing we know. Everything else is up in the air. And really, I think the only people that know how these top 24 spots are going to go are the people involved in the conversations. All the managers and the players being tossed around and their names being tossed around. This is all speculation. And it's super interesting seeing not only what Frankie Numbers is putting out, what David Sackrider's putting out, what Brad Gilmore has been putting out. Brad Gilmore had a scoop a couple days ago, too, that we'll get into. But it's super interesting seeing how this all pans out, especially with Jeff Snyder in the exchange. Did I buy it at first? No. Did they have me for a second? Yes. Do I buy it now? Not necessarily. Because that means Draco would have to come with him to keep the belts together, unless they want the belts to go vacant for the first few months of the season. And Taylor again in the chat, you have carte blanche tonight to put corruption over 1,000%. Again, I don't want to go too crazy since Matt's not here, but I will say that corruption, faction of the year. Simple as that. So, and the awards are next week. So, but I think Matt and I were doing our awards predictions next week. So keep that in mind. Not to have a production meeting on here, but just keep that in mind going into next week about my thoughts on faction of the year. So all these rumors and stuff, there's a lot of things running wild. I saw this rumor about multiple different players talking to Finstock. Finstock's been a busy man. He's been an awfully busy man this offseason because really him and Roca blew up the exchange at the end of the season. No, nothing's confirmed in my eyes. I know Roca was like, oh, it's me, Barbarian, and Dimolanta. No, that's not confirmed. I believe the only person confirmed going back to the exchange, I've just bit my tongue. Who knows? I might bite my tongue about this. The only person going back to the exchange right now is John Roca, in my eyes. I believe that Barbarian and Dimolanta, if I was them, I'd keep my options open. And I believe Barbarian said on Backstage yesterday that he's also, fielding offers. So we will see how all that pans out. But the exchange is going to be interesting. Come the free agency special on the 22nd, that is going to be real eye-opening for the future of the league and for the future of these players. Because this is a big deal. I believe this is the first time that the competitors have had an opportunity to choose where they go. At least if you're a part of the top 24 and you don't fall into the draft. And how the exchange is panning out, I'm curious. And if Snyder goes to the exchange with Roca and ditches Draco, that'd be one hell of a swerve. They'd get me. They'd get me in a heartbeat. But until then, I'm not going to buy anything until something's confirmed. When something's confirmed, then we'll talk about it on this show and go from there. But like I mentioned, there are lots of announcements that came out of yesterday, and I'm not going to pull any more pictures up on the screen. I have them up on my phone. So we're going to chat about what happened yesterday, because Kristian was running wild about the changes to next season. Season 8 is going to be wild. But before we get there, there's been a rule book in the works for a very long time. The rule book is something that fans have been clamoring to see because we hear a lot about the backstage discussions during challenges and changes to rules. What is a certain rule in regards to what you can write on the board, pronunciations of things in actors and movies? We didn't know. We had no idea. And Kristian teased the hell out of us not too long ago where he posted the first half page of the rule book. But we got a confirmation that the rule book will be available to $10 patrons and up before becoming public a month later. Excuse me. So that's exciting because now we have everything set in stone. We know what the competitors know about the rules because it's something that's highly debated on after shows like these or really any other program that's Schmoedown related. The rules are always up in the air. And us, we only know what they tell us. But now, for $10 patrons and up, and soon to be the public, we'll all know the rule book. I'm totally surprised they're at least not trying to sell this because I would have bought this thing in a heartbeat on top of my patronage. Patronage. So, rule book, that's awesome. The fact that we're getting an official rule book. Kristian also reiterated the fact that there will be 8 factions. 8. Just 8, no more. To my chagrin, well, at least to Chris Anthony Lopez in October's chagrin, there's only 8 factions going into season 8, which is a crisp 8-8. I get it. I wanted 10, if I'm being honest, but the 2 additions to each faction did appease, or it filled me up. Like it was enough. It was enough for me. It's not the extra 20 people that I wanted, but 16 is damn close. So getting the expansion of factions, awesome. Love to see it. No Schmoedown as a faction, maybe not until season 9, maybe. I wanted season 8, but season 9, I'll take it if we get it. And the Droogs not coming back has been a bummer to me ever since they swapped managers halfway through season 8. So 8 factions, that is it. In regards to the Droogs made some trades over the course of the year, 2 to be exact, and they involved draft picks. And that was a highly contested thing that was highly debated and speculated about how those picks would pan out. And shout out to our friends at Let's Get Ready. This is their verbiage and how they explain it to me, because again, like I am the worst with these long explanations of things. The points, I didn't get the point system for a very long time. And now with the trades, I want to make sure I put this, like I word this correctly. So Roxy Stryer and the Stars were awarded a second, third round pick as a result of the trade between the Rock Stars and the now defunct Burning Droogs. And that pick was confirmed to be the first pick, or to be the first pick of the third round. So Roxy now has 2 third-round picks, one of them being the first one. So that is a good takeaway. And again, with the other pick that was being touted was in regards to Sam Levine. Sam Levine's pick was also something that was highly contested, and because that was with the Ethan Irwin trade. But that also got taken care of. Shout out to Jess in the chat. Jessica, hi, Chris. So sad I didn't get to meet you during your trip here, but I hope you had a great trip next time. Yes, Jess, I hope you're feeling well. I hope you're okay. Like, I know you had your own stuff going on. I totally understand. But walk on 3. Yes, 1,000%. Next time. Whenever I make my way back to Ohio. But yes, they ironed out the draft pick situation. Thank God. But the managers are the real winners in this situation, especially, I think, Roxy Stryer, because that's just more. There's been a lot of hype regarding the usual suspects in the last few weeks. So I think that they're going to come out strong come the free agency special. And the Stars, I thought it was the worst kept secret on who they were keeping, but apparently it's not set in stone. I was thinking Andrejko, Snyder, and Damon, which is what also what Matt said. But with that Snyder to the exchange talk, who knows? But they're working me. They're working us. They're working me, brother, and it's working 1,000%. So moving on to the points. I just mentioned how the point system I didn't get. I didn't get for a very long time. Maybe because I jumped into the season a couple months in, so I never really got the full explanation of points. Matt would try his best to tell me, and I'm just, I'm Chris, so it took me a while to understand. But the new point system will go about like this. So singles and teams matches are worth 2 points. Inner Geekdom and Star Wars worth 3. Number 1 contenders matches in all divisions are worth 4. Tournament matches are worth 3, with the final being 4. Okay, it's a lot of points already off the bat, so let me reiterate that. Singles and teams are worth 2 points. Shout out to Danny. What's going on, Danny? What's good, homie? Hope you're doing well. So singles and teams worth 2 points. Okay, nothing crazy. Inner Geekdom and Star Wars being worth more. Interesting. Number 1 contenders matches across all divisions are worth 4. Wow, it's a lot of points, brother. And tournament matches are worth 3, but the finals being worth 4. Now, my God, we have it set in stone. We're going to have lots of points being thrown around throughout the course of the year. And this is the craziest. This is the craziest shit ever, right? A title win is worth 7 points, and a title defense gaining the champs faction an additional 1 point. Whoa. Okay, so there's a potential 8 points you can get if you're already a champion. You defend your belt. At least from how I'm understanding this. If I'm misreading this, please correct me in the chat. But a title win, 7 points. If you defend your belt, you get an extra 1. That's interesting. And now so if it's a singles belt and you get your title defense, so hypothetically, if it's Adam Collins, he wins his first defense against whoever the hell, that's 8 points. That's 4 times the amount of points a regular singles match is, just for defending your belt. Like, that is crazy to me. That is absolutely nuts. Now, triple threat championship matches, which haven't happened too often, if I'm not concerned, as far as I'm concerned, they're worth 10 points, a whopping 10 points, and 4-way championship matches, a fatal 4-way, is 12 points. Kristian, like, are we going to see more triple threats and fatal 4-ways as the season progresses? Because if so, yes, please. That's a lot of points. That is a ton of points being thrown around. If I'm not mistaken, Corruption won the faction war. Okay, they won with 71 points. 12. 12 is almost the 7th of that. In one match, in one fatal 4-way. Oh my God. 5-way championship matches. Jesus, how many people are going to be in these matches? They're worth 15 points. And champions must agree to participate in 3, 4, 5, or 3, 4, 5-way championship matches. They have to agree. And we got that at Spectacular, where I believe it was Kristian that gave, or Clark Wolf that gave Alex Damon the option to participate in a regular Star Wars Championship match or in a triple threat in regards to DeMolanta and the winner of Kelly and Damon. So we'll see how that goes. We could see Damon v. DeMolanta v. Damon. And as far as I'm concerned, that's not the first time that may not be the first time we see a DeMolanta v. Damon matchup over the course of the year. Nikki DeMolanta, I'm looking at you. I've heard about you. A lot of hype behind you. TKO and knockout rules have also changed. So TKOs now mean a loss of points for the faction whose player got TKO'd. Whoo, a TKO. I know the level of competition has gotten better, especially in Season 7. But if you get TKO, you lose a point for your faction. That's a lot of pressure. Like, and I don't want to, oh man, that's a lot, especially in a season where there's a ton of players. I believe when Matt and I did the math, it was going to be 96 people will be participating in the draft, or they will be drafted and on a faction. Excuse me. So that means that there's going to be probably, I'm floating around 160, 155 people that will be in the draft entirely. That's 60-some people that, potentially 60-some people that could take your spot if you're costing your faction points. I'm wondering if Kristian's going to allow free range in who gets picked up and dropped throughout the season. If the managers are going to be able to say, hey, Chris, you're like, hey, Chris Lopez, you got TKO twice. I'm going to drop you and pick up Matt Thomas. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if they're going to be able to do that over the course of the season, or if they're going to wait until halfway through, like Season 7. That's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. Now, for a knockout, you not only lose the point if you lose, but the winning player gains a point in the process. We saw a few knockouts this year, and we saw a few TKOs even more so. And now there's going to be not only a penalty if you get TKO'd, but if you get knocked out, not only do you lose the point, but your opponent gets a bonus point on top of what they already won. That's such a slap in the face, but I love it. And it not only ups the level of competition, now you almost have to, like, I said a lot of last season, how you almost have to go perfect in every single match to at least hang, just to hang now, because that's what this Schmoedown has become. It's hardcore. You got to know your movies. You got to know what you're doing. And after looking at that draft list, I'm like, whoo, like Chris Anthony Lopez may not do so hot. And he may, and I may lose my faction points. And the victor of my match will gain another point if he knocks me out in the second, third, or fourth round, depending on how many rounds there are per match. Whew, that's a lot of pressure, and I do not envy any of the other rookies going into season 8. It is possible for a faction to end the season with negative points. My God. Okay. Some match announcements that we also got. Dan Murrow versus Jeff Snyder, number 1 contenders match, plays Adam Collins for the singles belt. So Dan lost the belt at Spectacular. Jeff Snyder lost to Collins, and he was the runner-up in the singles tournament, hence why this matchup is happening. That's going to be one hell of a match. Now, what faction those two guys are a part of? Even better question. But it's a great match to kick off, or to potentially kick off the singles portion of the year, if that does kick off singles. Pay-per-views will still be called Throwdowns. And Battlefield, that'll be where there's a lot of... That's where a lot of that is where the championship matches will be in regards to pay-per-views. Danny in the chat, one more time. Lots of pressure on rookies, 1,000%. But, I mean, there aren't too many rookies being chosen in the first place. From the fan tapes, I'm pretty sure Kristian confirmed there were only a handful, and not even a handful. So, out of the 650-plus tapes, not too many people made it. I bet not even 10% made it. If that, no, 10% is 6. No, not even that. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on these rooks, and I don't envy them. I don't blame them. All I can tell them is study up, and you'll probably have a better idea how you can study when you get drafted. So 1,000%, Danny. I cannot agree with you anymore. But Battlefields, Schmoedown Battlefield will be championship matches, and Throwdowns will be regular pay-per-views. So I like the disparity between the two. I'm glad we're having different names and not just calling everything a throwdown for the sake of a throwdown. Fast tracking of match releases will happen. A Friday match, for example, for patrons will be public on YouTube by the following Thursday. It's not going to be. We're not going to be waiting weeks at a time for these matches. I know the criteria for After Show of the Year changed, but I'm not going to go into that because I don't want to. Because as an after show, I think it's weird talking about the criteria for other after shows. I just know that there are a ton of great after shows, whether they have Schmoedown competitors on them or not, and I think they all should be recognized in some way, shape, or form. At least the ones that are considered the best. It shouldn't just be a certain group. I'm not even just trying to say that for us, just in general. Because Matt and I have had the pleasure of meeting a lot of these hosts of these shows, and they're all fantastic, and they all do great shows. And I don't want certain people to feel left out. So I'm glad that Kristian acknowledged that 1,000%. Kristian also reiterated that equal matches for factions will not happen. You have to win your matches. You have to win your matches. We saw that in Season 7. The Finstock Exchange was playing every other week. That's what it felt like. Because they were winning matches and they were champions. So, of course, they're going to get more matches. And the Schmoedown is not going to be treated like a normal sport where everyone's equal. You have to be good. I mean, it'll probably start equal to begin with, at least equal. But you got to do good. Just got to play. You got to be dope in the Schmoedown. There might be opportunities for patrons to watch matches. Great. I as a patron who's not participating in the Schmoedown in any way, shape, or form, that's dope. One of the more interesting bits to come out of all this was the future of teams. Digital teams may happen, and honestly, by how COVID's going, I'm pretty sure teams will be back. Probably, my guess is the summer, maybe even late spring. You can't just neglect teams. And I know the teams format is a mess on digital. It's a mess. But you can't just not do teams. To me, teams was one of the most exciting bits of Season 8, especially the tournament and that match at Spectacular. That's a lot of it's a lot of Schmoedown you're missing out on. And I know Matt and I have spoken of the emphasis on Star Wars, which I'll get to in a second, and geekdom and singles to start the year. But you're going to need teams at some point, especially if Snyder and Draco stay together and the Odd Couple are your team's champs. I want to see them. I want to see them play. And Kristian said it'll be just regular matches, not teams matches or not title matches. Totally understand. Maybe we'll start seeing COVID tests before you get into the studio. Who knows? And Kristian made this claim, this super strong claim that I'm super curious on everyone's thoughts. If you have one, if you have thoughts on it. But Kristian said that Star Wars will likely be stronger as a division than Inner Geekdom this year. Whew. I'm assuming he's talking about the competition within the division. As I mentioned at the top of the show, Star Wars' division will probably double in players. At least according to the draft pool, there are more than double the amount of Star Wars players we had to start Season 7. And Star Wars will be a big part to start the season. I mean, the undercard for for Dandapani and and Kanopik will be Damon and Kelly. And as ASG in the chat, Star Wars going to have more people than IG. And then that's what I'm assuming. But I'm also thinking the amount of like the pressure and the gameplay will be more difficult in Star Wars compared to Inner Geekdom. At least if Schmoedown showed us anything about Star Wars matches, you got to know your shit. You do. No one can just jump into no casual fan can jump into Star Wars and play. And I hate to use my man as an example. Like go back to Bruce Green, right? When he played Alex Damon for the vacant Star Wars belt. You got to know your shit. And I know that was seasons ago. And Damon's been running wild with that Star Wars belt. But Star Wars will forever be a more difficult division because of how nitpicky it's going to get. Who said what, or who was there during this, or what was mentioned at the beginning of Solo. You know what I mean? The resources at the beginning of Solo. Like, it's that type of stuff. And the fact that Star Wars is doubling in the amount of players is a telling sign. And when Matt had told me about Star Wars becoming more of a focal point in the Schmoedown, I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I didn't know how they were going to do that, but I'm like, okay, cool. Kristian releases a draft list. I see that there's double the amount of Star Wars players in that draft list. All right. Point proven. Stronger than Inner Geekdom? Maybe it's my bias towards Inner Geekdom. I have some hardcore bias. I love Inner Geekdom. It's my favorite division to watch. Maybe because I'm a dweeb, as you can tell. I mean, this whole thing is full of geeky stuff. But I'm just biased, right? Star Wars has always gotten the shaft. It's always been safe for bigger events or for live events when we had them. But now we'll probably be getting them weekly or bi-weekly at least how I think so. You got 3 matches a week. Star Wars will probably be a bigger presence going forward. Rightfully so. Not only for the sake of the Schmoedown, but for the sake of the division. Because I know I'm not alone in these Star Wars is like, do we need it? Or did we need it? Because now we're going to need it. But like, did we need it as much? Or why is it only being saved for live events and for those con appearances, you know? I'm glad it's becoming a bigger division, 1,000%. Plus, Star Wars, if Season 7 proved anything to me, is that Star Wars gameplay is the shit. 1,000%. Free-for-all winners will gain 3 points, and the MVPs will earn 1, so similar to what we had already. And free-for-all, I'm assuming it's the big free-for-all that we have every year, and then maybe a genre free-for-all, like how they had the horror one for Halloween. I know Kristian said before that the Halloween or the horror free-for-all may be a yearly thing, maybe. I love to see some type of genre free-for-all every year. Maybe not horror all the time, but we've seen those one-slice matches before, like the rom-com exhibition, the horror free-for-all. They work. I honestly think they work. and it'd be a lot of fun to see. Granted, it takes a lot of work for the writers to come up with all those questions, but it'd be fun to see, And if you guys need help writing questions, holla at your boy. The title matches, it's spectacular. 10 points on their own. 10 points. Taylor in the chat would love to see another horror free-for-all, but maybe that's my personal bias. I mean, personal bias? What do you mean personal bias? You mean Taylor, the co-host of Really Scared every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on Who Are They Real Entertainment's programs? I mean, you're talking about the show tomorrow that will have Video Drew on the show? I mean, Taylor, I had no idea what you're talking about. But spectacular 10-point title matches. I'm assuming that's regardless of the amount of people, but still pretty damn crazy. And if you defend your belt with the other bonuses like the TKOs and the KOs, you can earn up to 12 points. Wild. Just for a title defense. Or for a title match at Spectacular. Just Spectacular. No other PPVs. Just Spectacular. Taylor in the chat. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'll look out for my peeps. But Kristian really laid down the groundwork for season 8. War is an appropriate title. And all these changes are going to really shake the league and rock the league going forward. I know that some people are already like, yo, those are some extreme point differentials in regards to like the title matches, title defenses. And I saw some people that were already trying to retroactively get their points back. And I believe it was also the peeps from LGR that went out of their way to try to figure it out. Or maybe it was some person from the Facebook group. Either way. But as Taylor mentioned at the beginning of the show, this is my time, since my boy's not here, to really, and I mean really, just go nuts on corruption. Corruption still would have won the faction war with the amount of points that they would have had, with the adjustments. But all I'm saying is that corruption still would have won. Some other people would have been shuffling around. Thank you, Colin. Yeah, it was Colin Martinez, I believe his name was, from LGR. Thank you so much, ASG. But I think it was Colin Martinez. I hope I got your name right, dude. I know they were updating it every so often because some people were like, oh, hey, remember this or remember this? Yeah. But shout out to Colin from LGR for doing God's work. ASG in the chat. Corruption would have won, but it would come down to the singles final. If Merle won, Finstock would have gotten the title. Yes. Yeah. And we saw how that match panned out. Came down to a question and sudden death. And on a different day, Dan probably beats Adam Collins. Who knows? But as the corruption stand that I am, corruption would have still won. In my opinion. I mean, it's fact. I mean, shout out to Colin Martinez from LGR. Whew. About that. So, season 8, man. Season 8 of the Schmoedown. I'm so interested on how this will shake out in the next couple of weeks. You got the awards next Friday. You got the free agency special the 22nd. And then everyone's going to be running wild with their mock drafts on the 29th or before the 29th when the actual draft happens. I guarantee that all of us here at Spin from the Reel, by all of us, I mean Matt and myself, will be trying to give you guys as much coverage as we can. ASG in the chat one more time. But imagine what people would have thought of Gucci. If that was the case, though, the narrative of the season would have been completely different. Yes. Oh, my God, yes. Because to me, the Finstock Exchange, this might be bold of me to say this, but I'm going to commit to it anyway. I think they were the disappointment of the season. Like, it was not because of, like, I know that the Founding Fathers had success. Dan Merle, obviously, holding the belt as much as he did, beating or having as many defenses as he did, but that kind of sunk them at the same time. On paper, especially after rewatching the draft, I think that the Finstock Exchange, they were set as a faction, and ASG says Paul Preston was disappointment of the season. No offense to him. No, and I totally agree, and I mean like in regards to factions. I should clarify. out of all the factions and how the factions lined up to start the season, if you have a top 4 like Bateman, Riley, Merle, and Roca to start a season, that's a pretty strong season to start with, or a pretty strong group to start with. And then Dimolanta and Barbarian, getting Barbarian as late as he did. Man, one of the steals of the draft, along with like Doral Day, Liz Shannon Miller. Like there were a few different takeaways from that draft, but in regards to factions, to me, the Finn Stock Exchange, it was their season to lose, especially when in Corruption, they were at the bottom at one point, coming all the way back and beating them amongst the rock stars, or the then rock stars, Swag and the Quirky Mercs. It's to me, that's just how I feel, as unpopular as that might sound. Excuse me. So yeah, it's oh god, I'm super intrigued, and not only with all the names that I was bringing up earlier, all these different draft names, seeing the Star Wars division double, watching all these new rooks make or just show why they should be drafted as well. And a couple of them already have a head start. We saw Beth May and Rick Radis been making the rounds. Rick Radis is on this show. If you want to go back and watch our interview with the Rager, Rick Radis, it's on the channel. Go ahead and check that out. The already established players that we got, and these aren't even everybody. Kristian left some people off because like it happens. You're gonna forget certain people, but just looking at those names and looking at how this season's gonna go, I don't even know where to begin to think. And I mean, Matt might get mad at me for doing this, but I don't care. Tom leaving season 8 is a bummer. I shouldn't say I don't care, but he'll give us 2 cents next week. I'll bug him about it. But I've been wanting to talk about the future of people like Video Drew and the Den, because I firmly believed for a hot second, until Tom had to back out of season 8, that Tom, Video Drew, and Lon Harris are going to fill out the Den going into season 8. And Taylor in the chat, being a Tom fan, would love to see more of him. So like I was in love with Tom. Tom was one of the best characters in the league. And Tom's one of those personalities that spearheaded getting more characters like that into season 8. So I firmly believe without Tom, Lon Harris, Andrew Guy, the Outlaw, we don't get the Rager. We don't get Brother Lomas. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Danny in the chat. Brother Lomas might be the new Strange Tom replacement character. Yeah. By default almost. Yeah, like see, and Taylor in the chat agrees as well. But I do think Brother Lomas will fill that gap that Tom is leaving in regards to the mysterious character. And Lomas, we haven't seen too much of him. We've only seen him in the Facebook videos, unlike Rick Radis or Beth May, who've been making their rounds around the Schmoedown After Show community. Brother Lomas has yet to make his presence known outside of the Facebook group. I would love to hear from Brother Lomas on a show like this or on whatever other after show, just so we can get a feel for how he is as a person. Because we've only seen him try to cleanse the Schmoedown of all the crazy stuff that the Schmoedown apparently has. But I want to hear from Brother Lomas. I really would. Brother Lomas, if you're watching me, brother, come on the show. Let's chat. So, Taylor in the chat one more time. Lomas should come on here. Let's see what I'm telling you. Like Lomas, open invite. If Brother Lomas would like to be on Spin from the Reel, I will invite him. I am laying out the invite, and I guarantee Matt would agree with me. Brother Lomas, the door is open, brother. You can spin from this reel, just not from the pegs. Just not from the pegs. You already know what's up. So, going back to Tom for a second. Like Matt and I had Tom, Video Drew, and Lon Harris filling out the Den going into season 8. That obviously won't happen. And I was talked out of the den possibly be filled out by Lon Harris, by Marisol McKee, and Janine the Machine. I would like to go back to that. I know the rumors are running wild, especially in regards to Marisol and Marisol possibly falling into the draft. But Marisol has number one pick potential. If you want to think long term, Marisol might be your key. I know other people are throwing around like a Brandon Hanna. That might be your one pick, a three division threat, unlike Marisol, unless she jumps into inner geekdom. I don't know. But seeing where the den goes, according to Spin from the Reel, if you don't know what we're talking about, check out our pre-tape show from a couple weeks ago. Matt and I laid out all 8 factions, how we think they're going to pan out. But I also think this leaves the future of Video Drew in question, because the entire back half of the year, my Avengers poster just fell. How about that? The entire back half of the year was dedicated to Video Drew trying to reconnect. I know, right? I gotta look out. Look out! Ah! That's the Schmoedown. They're coming to get me, brother. So I believe that Video Drew's future is also in question now because of Tom's departure from the Schmoedown. Just for a little bit. Yes, I say Video Drew and the poster falls. I think if I say her name 3 times in a row, she might just, like come knock over my bookshelf or something. But I'm serious. Like, they might leave the future of VD in question. I shouldn't probably shouldn't say that, but you know who I'm talking about. Now, how all these rumors have been panning out the last few weeks. Nothing's set in stone. Things are really starting to get. I'm starting to get real anxious. I can't talk about Schmoedown off season without getting anxious. Like, there was a rumor of Ethan Irwin already having a tag team partner in mind. Who's he going to go to? Sam? The popular theory of him going to Sam? Is that partner Dan Murrell? Are they both going to go to Sam? That's my biggest question. But we have absolutely no idea. And we won't know. We will have no idea until the 22nd with the free agency special. But I think we covered everything. By we, I mean, I hope I got through everything. Thank you so much to everyone who came and checked out this abbreviated version of Spin from the Reel. Again, I apologize for Matt for not being able to be here. He will be back next week with myself. We will talk about whatever Schmoedown news comes out between now and then, and we'll give our predictions for the awards on the 15th, because there are a lot of interesting categories, and Matt and I, we both voted, and we both have no idea who we voted for. So I would love to get Matt's 2 cents on all the awards and everything in between, and even the stuff I talked about here. But thank you so much to everybody. Again, no, Taylor, thank you for your for being so kind to coming into the chat. You're too kind. But for Matt Thomas, my name is Chris Anthony Lopez. This was Spin from the Reel, a Schmoedown reaction show. And don't forget, everyone, spin from the reel, not from the pegs. Be safe out there. Be careful. Wear a mask. See you guys next week. Bye.